Hey all, it is Mickey, and I want to discuss with you two of my all-time favorite shows that are criminally underrated. These shows deserve way more attention than they get, and yes, I'm going to tell you about them. And hopefully you are intrigued enough to watch one or both of them. And one of them is a Star Trek show that does not get enough credit or attention. And the first one I want to talk to you about is a show called The Orville. You might have heard of it. This is Seth MacFarlane's sort of take on Star Trek, and it starts off entertaining. The first episode, easily the worst one. There's a lot of forced humor and things like that, and it gets better after the pilot episode, after that first episode, but it's still pretty rampant in the first season. So, with that being said, first season still has some amazing stories and some really fantastic fantastic writing, and the show itself just kind of continues to build. And season 2 it gets a lot better. They start doubling down on a lot of taking chances and things like that, and about 2/3 of the way through the season, they completely flip everything on its head, everything you're expecting. And that's sort of where it goes from being just sort of a Star Trek inspired show to really having its own identity, which it's kind of funny because that episode where it happens is called Identity. So it is a fantastic show, and once that happens in season 2, you hit season 3 and it just doesn't slow down. Like season 3, I will go out on a limb and say it is probably one of the best seasons of TV I've ever seen. And granted, that's my own personal taste, but I will stand by it because every episode is just brilliant. I have rewatched the whole series, but especially season 3, over and over and over again. And it doesn't get old. It's just, especially now, it's very timely with a lot of the things that go on. And the storytelling, by the time they get to season 3, is just absolutely brilliant. They did not hold back anything. They took a lot of chances, and in my opinion, it paid off really, really well. Oh, you can see it. There's a little deer back there. Hello, deer. Maybe. But, yeah, I mean, so it is Seth MacFarlane. It is a lot of things, but don't expect straight up comedy. You'll definitely see it in the first season, and that's because the first season aired on Fox, and Fox was probably just sort of like, you're Seth MacFarlane, you do Family Guy, and American Dad, make sure when you do this, it's funny. So my guess is part of the pilot, part of the reason it became so forced humor funny is because he was trying to appease the Fox producers. And that being said, it does get a little bit lighter. It does get more serious as it goes on. So into season 1, it has a more dramatic tone. Season 2 definitely gets a little bit more dramatic. And season 3, that was kind of what they were aiming for the whole time. That was when they switched to Hulu, totally different leadership, and so it was really Seth MacFarlane sort of embracing his true Star Trek nerddom and creating something that's very critical of a lot of society, social commentary, a lot of good social commentary, and really just sort of taking it to a more serious level, but there is still humor. The humor in season 3 is a lot more natural. So it's not as forced, it's not as, trying to push it in there. It kind of flows a lot more naturally. And I will say, I don't really want to spoil anything, but season 3, there's a gut punch in there that really hit me harder than any other show harder than any really other movie or TV show that I've ever seen. So fantastic. I will give it 10 out of 10 stars every time. I love that show. That is one of my all-time favorites. And for good reason. It is highly criminally underrated. And by the way, side note, if you're wondering what all these cars are for, I am walking through the Grovot campground right now in Grand Teton National Park, which is closed for the winter. So all those cars are where the park stashes their unused vehicles. So that was what you saw. But back to the point. Yes, if you have heard things about the Orville and you haven't gotten around to watching it, change that immediately. Yes, the first episode is the weakest episode, but it will get better and better from there on out. And especially when you get about 2/3 of the way through season 2, it takes off running and it does not slow down. And brilliant. Love it. So, next one is Star Trek Prodigy. And this one got overlooked by a lot of people because it was a Star Trek show aimed at kids. It was sort of like a kind of a gateway into Star Trek for a younger audience. That being said, the creators did not dumb it down at all. The entire series is like it's a really complex time travel story, and it works, and it's brilliant, and it flows, and it keeps you hooked. But more importantly, Star Trek Prodigy really understands Star Trek in a way that no other modern Star Trek has. There is wonderful social commentary. There are numerous lessons about working together, putting differences aside and working together. And the creators, Kevin and Dan Hageman, in my opinion, they should be heading up Star Trek because they get Star Trek like no one else does that has been working on this new crop of Star Trek shows. So, yes, season 3 of Star Trek Picard was entertaining, but not a ton of social commentary. A lot of action. I mean, it was a good enough story, but it just kind of, it left out the sort of true essence of Star Trek, in my opinion. Strange New Worlds, same thing. It's entertaining. I love watching it, but there's not a ton of social commentary. It's in there from time to time, but a lot of times they're looking more to telling entertaining stories in the Star Trek universe, which is working, it's fine, but if you're looking for that essence of Star Trek that kind of seems to be lost, it was in Star Trek Prodigy. And granted, it takes maybe 3 or 4 episodes to get into, and yes, you can tell it's sort of geared toward kids, but that being said, I mean, it is wildly entertaining, and I would say the best Star Trek show since Deep Space Nine, because it is just, it understands Star Trek, and every story, every episode really packs in a Star Trek punch in a way that you really don't get from any modern Star Trek. And on top of that, there are a number of legacy characters that are brought back in, most notably Captain Janeway and Chakotay. They have a wonderful story that they finally get, a little redemption from, because there were a lot of missed opportunities in Voyager. That's sort of the theme of Voyager, is a lot of missed opportunities. But that is more than made up for in Star Trek Prodigy, and they did so well. That's why I'm making this video, because these two shows just do not get the attention they deserve. So, I will say, if you are going to watch Prodigy, you can jump in right away without having much knowledge of the Star Trek universe. Totally fine. That's kind of what it's intended to do. But if you are a fan of Star Trek, you will get much more out of it if you have seen at least most of The Next Generation and Voyager. Those are kind of the two that come back into play just because of the legacy characters and things like that. But that being said, yeah, I can't say enough wonderful things about those two shows. The downside to Star Trek Prodigy, the downside to both really, is that, well, the Orville, I do have the first two seasons on DVD, so I know you can grab them on DVD, but the season 3 is only on Hulu and Disney Plus. So that is the only place you can find it, and 3-4 years later, I am still patiently waiting for a Blu-ray of season 3 of the Orville. Thus far, nothing has come out, and it doesn't look like it will, but it's going to be tragic because I would love to watch that show without subscribing to Disney for various reasons. But Star Trek Prodigy, on the other hand, this one was neglected by Paramount in the most horrible way. They let AI decide which shows on their network to axe. And before season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy, 2 of 2, had even aired, they axed Star Trek Prodigy. And fans were furious because the first season is brilliantly wonderful. And the second season just takes it up so many notches. So the second season did find a home on Netflix. And it was on there for a little while, but like so many stupid companies, they are letting AI decide what should stay and what shouldn't stay. So again, AI on Netflix decided Star Trek Prodigy shouldn't stay. So now the only place you can watch Star Trek Prodigy is on the DVDs and Blu-rays because it didn't even go back to Paramount. So, Paramount Plus. So, maybe you have a friend that has them. If you're in Jackson Hole, I'm happy to let you borrow my copies, but yeah, it's worth seeking out because it is Star Trek at its best. I would highly recommend it. You are missing out if you are a Star Trek fan and you have not watched Star Trek Prodigy. Also, for any of my trans friends watching, there is a I shouldn't say trans, but there is a genderless character, a non-binary character in Star Trek Prodigy, a main character. So that's awesome. And then in season 3 of the Orville, there is a fantastic trans episode that I love. So, yeah, that is my little soapbox about 2 shows that I hope you will agree with me when you're done watching are criminally underrated and deserve a lot more attention and even a lot more seasons. So, yeah, go check them out. Give them your support. Make your support known. Tell the world that they should have more. Tell the studios that you want to see more. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to me. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.